10 affordable winter fragrances. And we're going to start with Zara Cocoa Collection Spirit 01. When it comes to the price point, you really can't beat Zara fragrances. This opens up with a blast of coconut and cacao, followed by some spices and a really nice whiskey that lingers down to the dry down, where it meets the vanilla, the creamy sandalwood and some tobacco leaf as well. The performance for this fragrance is above average. I think I get around 6 to 7 hours out of it on my skin, and for the price point, you really can't beat that. Swiss Arabian Tobacco 01. Swiss Arabian. In my view, it is the top notch of those Middle Eastern fragrance brands. Tobacco 01 opens up with a fruitiness surrounding some spices. When it dries down, it meets up with the honey, the vanilla, tobacco. So in the opening, this reminds me of Side Effect, but it transforms to Tobacco Lore from Dior, but quite a darker take on the DNA from Tobacco Lore. For your value for your money, I think this is quite good, and the performance of this fragrance has a great scent trail. Not the biggest projection, but the scent trail is amazing, but also good longevity, around 8 to 10 hours on my skin. Mercedes-Benz Club Black. This is the best vanilla fragrance for under around $100. This is scented by the vanilla, but in the opening you have some ginger that brightens up this vanilla, does prevent the vanilla from becoming heavy. And in the dry down, still all about the vanilla, but here it meets up with a smokiness. So it gives this kind of a bad boy feeling that I really enjoy in a vanilla fragrance. Performance on this one isn't the best. It's around 7 hours. And I think with a vanilla heavy fragrance, you could do better. But on the other hand, it isn't that expensive. Maison Alhambra Kismet for Men. This is a woody earthy patchouli fragrance inspired by Tuxedo, but there is a big important difference in this fragrance, and that is that the vanilla is more prominent, the earthy patchouli is a little bit more toned down, and that makes Tuxedo feel a little bit like an old man, and the difference is that this feels like a 20-year-old that has been very successful on the stock market. The performance of this fragrance isn't the best, 5-6 hours of longevity, but on the other hand, I don't get any much better performance out of Tuxedo. Next out, we have Nova Scents Britannia. Nova Scents is a Swedish dupe house, and I think they made a great success with Britannia. That is inspired by Vidian London, but they have made it a little bit more of a more prominent leather, and that places this fragrance right in between Vidian London and Tom Ford Tuscan leather. So I think they managed to fill up a gap in the market as a dupe house that is amazing. Performance of this fragrance isn't on Vidian London or Tuscan leather level, but still you do get around 7 to 8 hours out of your skin. Swiss Arabian Shagaf Oud Azrak. This is a cinnamon, spicy, sweet honey, and to me the sweetness in this fragrance is sickening sweet. And you can get the image, if you read up on the notes, that there is a dark sweetness to this fragrance, but you couldn't be more wrong. The dark notes in here as oud, patchouli in leather just add some depth, because it's honey, sweetness all the way down to the dry down. So this isn't really my kind of a fragrance, but if you do like those sickening, loud, sweet fragrances, this one is for you. And you do get a great performance out of this fragrance. I do get around 8 to 10 hours out of my skin. And Swiss Arabian are experts at making those loud, sweet fragrances without them feeling too synthetic. There is a natural feel to the honey in this fragrance. Next out, we have Lumiere Garçon from French Avenue. This fragrance is inspired by Dolce & Gabbana The One Luminous Nights that has been discontinued, and that makes this fragrance pretty unique on the market today, because you do get that typical Dolce & Gabbana The One DNA, but it also can bring some other fragrances into play here that helps me to describe the fragrance for you, because the dates in this one reminds me of the dates that you find in Latafa Khamra. The warm, creamy sweetness reminds me of the sweetness that you find in Al Taher. But in this one, it's way more balanced and not overpowering. And overall, I do also get a Side Effect feeling out of this fragrance. However, this isn't the best performing fragrance. Around 5 to 6 hours on my skin. Niche for All Cinnamon Apple. Cinnamon Apple from Niche for All is a crazy fragrance, because Niche for All is an inspired house. They're making dupes, inspired fragrances, but I can't get my head around which fragrance this is inspired by. People say Kilian Smoking Hot, but I do find so many other fragrances in this one. I do find a touch of Ojan in the opening. I also find a touch of Roja Sweetie Oud with that metallic smokiness that you find in here. And the sweetness reminds me of the sweetness from Side Effect. And obviously, yes, overall, a hot smoking from Kilian. But this one, just crazy good fragrance. Around 8 hours on my skin. Oriental Amber from Niche for All. Of all the dupe fragrances I ever tried, Oriental Amber is by far my favorite. This is inspired by Alexandria 2 from Sergov, a fragrance I don't enjoy. So how can this possibly be my favorite dupe fragrance? Well, Alexandria 2 has a skankiness in the opening, probably from the oud note. So Niche for All eliminated the oud note, going right on the magic touches that you find in Alexandria 2. And that makes this one the best dupe fragrance I ever tried. But you also have a great performance out of this one. Has a great scent trail, great projection without it being in your face. A longevity for around 10 hours. Next out we have Salvatore Ferragamo Uomo's Signature. This one opens up with a fresh spiciness before the warm spices of cinnamon and cardamom come into play. And then the dry down comes. And that makes this a fragrance for proper men, and no fuckboy should ever wear this fragrance. Because there is a darkness in the dry down from the leather, from the patchouli and from the coffee bean. That sweetness is there from the tonka bean, but it's not overpowering. And that is what makes this fragrance for proper men. However, I'm slightly disappointed on the performance of this fragrance. It only lasts on my skin for 5 hours. But on the other hand, it's a great fragrance for a date night. Those were the 10 fragrances that I think are affordable and worth talking about.